Okay, welcome to this A-level anthology of Michael Wilcockson's uh, article on Buddhism, on ethics. This is section 5, and we're going to split it, section 5 in two parts. Section 5A, this is the first part of this section. Acts and omissions, we'll read it and we will analyze it. If A chooses to shoot B, then we classify this as an intended act. If C sees A and fails to stop A shooting B, then this is an intended omission. The point is whether C is at all blameworthy. In this incident, if C is a pacifist, we might well justify their action by appealing to negative responsibility. By failing to act, they were morally blameless. You might even argue that refraining from acting took a great deal of moral courage. But however one looks at it, C was prepared to condone the death of B and accept whatever the consequences this might entail. Some object to this. Can I be held morally responsible for failing to help the stop of thousands dying in poverty in the third world? Perhaps the notion has to be couched in the terms as I am only responsible when I'm reasonably in a position to do something. In other words, some omissions are regarded as acts. Okay, let's talk about acts and omissions, and notice this is the first part of a longer argument. So what's your view? If you fail to act to give food and water to a disabled baby, and then this baby dies, is that not death by negligence? It's the grey area that matters here. In natural moral law, its advocates view all omissions, not some, but all omissions, where we have the ability and knowledge to act, but don't, as wrong. Sanctity of life. No surprise. Singer would see such omission as a kindness. If it's, we might call it infanticide, but it's a moral thing, and that's a quality of life choice. So key here is discussion about, from natural moral law, the interior and exterior acts. The intentional commission and omission for perceived good reasons are both still wrong. So, all of this, if A chooses to shoot B and it's an intended act, and it's an intended omission, and who's blameworthy, and then if there are are there certain beliefs that can justify certain action? Well, I might believe it's not a person, so I don't kill them, or I might believe there's no such thing. Could you have beliefs and still be morally culpable, even though you claim a great deal of moral courage? Well, clearly the Nazis had a belief system, but they were still morally culpable, putting people in the gas chamber, even though they thought they were doing nature's work in exterminating the weak and the helpless. I think the question of being morally blameless is, just because I believe something doesn't mean it makes me blameless. I think it's a fairly weak argument. So behind this is this engagement with natural moral law. So am I only responsible when I'm reasonably in a position to do something? Well, let's think about that for a second. Natural moral law says there are real and only apparent goods. Such action will only appear to be good. Helping someone to have a painless death may seem compassionate, but it stops the person from fulfilling their purpose as a human. The last weeks of life can be very important. A time when people come to terms with their own mortality. Pain relief through euthanasia is an apparent good, but not a real good. Well, what's your view? Again, you might think it is a real good. Well, that's interesting. Why is it? Well, we get back to the hedonic calculus, but Wilcockson, it seems, wants us to think in a utilitarian way. This sounds like a similar situation to the trolley problem dilemma. By not pushing the switch, you are omitting in an intentional way. This goes against our moral kind of intuitions. This may make you morally responsible. So what's your view? So what does it mean to be morally blameworthy? Well, within medical ethics, yes, the lines are difficult, perhaps blurry, as Wilcox argues. It may well be that not attempting to save a patient in certain circumstances may be regarded as the ethically acceptable act of utility. If it was to be foreseen that their quality of life would be too low, that saving them would be beyond a reasonable request. No, yeah, but this isn't actually a problem. We're using grey ethical issues to argue for extreme ethical stuff. Burdensome intervention is not thought of as euthanasia in the Catholic tradition. It's just withholding treatment. It's not required that you always treat to save a life. It might not even be passive euthanasia. So to kind of ground it is saving babies at all costs, different from taking babies' lives by acts or omissions. Infanticide, as Singer loves to talk about. How is it different? What's the line? Is it age, health? Why that line and not another? Is all treatment aimed at saving life? What can other treatment do? Well, Wilcockson's already talked about nursing. You might suggest nursing care only. Well, that's fine. Well, what's your view? Is it one or the other, or can we have this thing called nursing care and hospice treatment? Are all acts and omissions ethical or unethical? What's your view? So this was section 5A. We'll move on in the next video to section 5B.